All right, everyone, welcome back into another Fantasy Golf video. Going to be breaking down the Open Championship here for you guys. Give you guys a preview, all the top plays, some value plays, as well as long shot bets. Then giving you guys a first look build for DFS this week. We'll jump into that in just a second, but let's start with a quick recap from last week because last week was another awesome week. So let's start with our outright winner in Harry Hall. Harry Hall was the #1 player in the 9-to-5 model last week, winning at 66-1 in the secondary field event. That is now the second time this year that we've hit an outright winner in a secondary event. Earlier on this year, it was Bryce Garnett at 70-1. This continues to be the biggest edges that we get each and every year, guys. It's nice. Soft pricing. We can typically hit a more longer shot bet. Now, on top of that, we did the slight typo with Tommy Fleetwood instead of Luke Land there, but 3 of the outright bets that we were on last week ended up playing in a playoff to win. Harry Hall being one of them, Pearson Cootie being another one. And if you guys watched this video last week, you knew that I called out Ricky Hoy at 70-1, 65-1 on some sites. In this video, he was chopped down to 35-1 by the time I came out with that graphic. To me, it was a little bit too thin at that point. Now, the Scottish Open was an awesome week as well, kind of just safe for the most part. Kind of look at the sample build I gave out on the 9-to-5 write-up. One player missed a cut. That was Christian Bezuidenhout, who was someone that was a little bit chalky. I mentioned you could go to Ben Griffin in cash if needed as well. So pretty strong week as a whole. In terms of ownership leverage, I did mention that Corey Connors at 10% was something that we should be hammering, and that ended up working out. And then the one player that was maybe a little bit too high was Tom McKinnon, who ended up missing the cut. On top of that, we did have another 9-to-5 member have a really good week, finishing first place in their GPP, winning over $1,000. That's following a week where we had a couple of members having a really good week as well. And that's coming off of me saying, hey guys, it's okay to send your green screens. And so if you guys hit Harry Hall, feel free to send that on Twitter or on Discord. Love seeing that stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the Open Championship for this week. And so the Open Championship, course-wise, this is going to be a very short track for the Open Championship, or really for any major. Now, I think this picture actually is going to sum up the course and how it's going to play pretty well. This is a true link-style course that can be affected by the wind. So heavy winds can come in and play a big difference this week. But when we look at the weather, that does not seem to be an issue. Maybe on Friday, maybe on Saturday, maybe on Sunday slightly. 15-mile-per-hour winds is a little bit rough. Once it gets over that, though, is when we really have to start worrying about it. There is a lot of potential for rain in the forecast as well, which could play another variable. But in terms of like having an AM and PM split like we have seen with the Open Championship prior, we might not be getting that, but it is something to be checking in on really on Wednesday night, checking on the weather report to see if there's going to be an AM or PM potential advantage for the golfers, because that could play, and it has played, a big difference. But we go back to this course, it is going to have a lot of fescue, a lot of green side bunkers that are going to be in play. Fairways are going to be relatively easier, I would say, to hit than some of the majors that we typically see. I would say it's kind of right on par, though, with what we have seen this year. Rough is thick, and it should be penalizing, especially on more mishits. And I do expect the greens to play fast. And so when we go ahead and look at the stat fits for this week, what I'm looking at is going to be ball striking, total driving. I do think accuracy and also hitting the green, stroke gain approach-wise, is going to be key. So I do want to be looking at that. I do think hitting the fairway still will be key, though, as well. I do want to be looking at good drive percentage. Birdie to bogey ratio is also huge. I would suggest that, because I don't think it's going to be a birdie fest, but I also don't think it's going to be extremely difficult like we have seen from previous Open Championships, just with the length. So I want to be looking at birdie to bogey ratio over bogey avoidance and over birdie or better percentage for the scoring stat. I don't want to go too crazy. I want to be looking at golfers that are going to be able to hit the ball the way that they want to hit the ball. And so that's why I'm looking at these key stats. And these are the key stats that typically do pop up on link style course as being the top key stats. Obviously, we haven't seen this course that much. The last time that we did see this course on the PGA Tour or Foreign Major was in 2016 when Henrik Stenson beat out Phil Mickelson, who Phil Mickelson beat out the rest of the field by like 4 other shots. Those two really went off. But I do kind of think that we're going to see the course play a little bit more close to those two, how those two played it, rather than the rest of the field, just with the advancements in technology and everything. But we look at those top stat fits, probably not shocking for many people. You got Scotty, you got Colin Morikawa, Xander. Davis Thompson might shock some people, but he's been playing extremely well on the PGA Tour, so it's not shocking. Coming in off of, well, an okay week last week, but a victory the week before that. Rory obviously playing pretty well this year. Obear, Sam Burns kind of shocking with how kind of lackluster he's been. Same thing with Hovland. We got Tony Finau, Akshay, Aaron Rai, Corey Connors. He's going to be someone we're looking at as well. So we kind of get the idea of the good stat fits. Let's go ahead and look into another thing that's going to be more course fit related. Let's look into the specialist data. And so on a week where we do not have any course history, this could be a week where I do think we can be looking at specialist data a little bit more. For those of you guys that are unfamiliar with the specialist data, that is just pulling in all the unique characteristics for that week's tournament and putting it into one data point. And really for me, I think one of the big factors could be the amount of bunkers that they have, potentially green width, potentially length. But given that it's going to play as a harder scoring event, most likely, I want to be looking at that. Do want to be looking at link style specialist as well. Then honestly, weather. Like if I had to dial it into 3 characteristics, it'd probably be those 3. The weather is marked as fair. Fair is basically 10 to 15 mile per hour winds, where the wind weather does start to play a factor, but for the most part, not generally creating too much of an advantage for anyone. But I do still think it's noteworthy. So when we look at that, Scotty, Rory, Xander, Connors, Aubert, John Rahm, Hatton, Cameron Smith, Tommy Fleetwood, Bryson, Hideki, and we're getting a bunch of like similar plays. But I do think that is interesting and noteworthy. While we're here, let's go ahead and jump into the players that had the best recent form. So this is such a fascinating week. For a majority of the season thus far, it's really been in terms of form, it's been 3 players. Well, for a while, it was Scotty and Xander were in the top 2 for recent form, and you could just, those were the 2 best plays typically every single week. Then Rory started to play better and significantly better. And he entered that mix for a good month and a half stretch, basically for all the majors. Now Colin Morikawa is also playing well as well. So now we had a big 3 for a majority of the season. We kind of have a big 4 this week as well, with Colin Morikawa entering that mix as well, just given how well he's been playing. So those 4 players are clearly the players that have been playing the best. And when we're looking at this in terms of pricing, we're probably going to be going with Colin Morikawa a decent amount, just given the strong form that he's in. He is a former Open Championship winner as well. But looking at it a little bit further, who pops up next? Corey Connors, guys. Corey Connors has been playing extremely well. I mentioned he was the top ownership leverage play last week, and he can end up being that way as well because Sungjae Im is a player I think a lot of people are going to like, and I'll touch on that in a second or in a little bit here. He's very cheap, Sungjae Im. And so I think Corey Connors, who is a safer play with just as much upside, could be someone we're looking at a slightly higher price. Tony Finau been playing extremely well. Aaron Rai, 4th place finish for us last week, has given us a 7th and 2nd place finish thus far. He's going to be someone we're probably looking at. Aubert, Tommy Fleetwood, Bryson been playing extremely well on his PGA Tour starts. That is something I want to call out for anyone that's using the 9-to-5 data or is just kind of looking at this video kind of wondering. I am just using PGA Tour data only, not using live starts. The reason why I haven't used live starts is because we haven't seen them be predictive yet. And sadly, I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. This year has proven that. John Rahm's been playing not extremely well, but pretty well on the live tour. Joaquin Niemann has been playing well there as well. Those 2 players have not done that well in the majors on their starts. And the only player that has played well in the majors really is Bryson and a little bit Tyrrell Hatton. And we're just seeing that if you use the live results, you're actually creating more random variance for yourself. So you just make the best educated choices you can possible. That being said, Bryson was kind of a clear option in the last major. But certainly interesting the amount of good form we have with a lot of these players. And then lastly, kind of course history, but this is event history. We don't really care too much about event history. Sure, the Open Championships are all link style courses and they're all played typically at the same time of year, so the weather can be a little bit iffy. That is why I'm looking at event history. I think looking at comp course history would probably be a mistake. Again, the specialist day is a little bit better for that in terms of trying to find an edge in that regard. Rather than kind of picking and choosing a comp course that might fit the mold a little bit. But that's why I like to use the specialist, where we're kind of combining all the key characteristics for set events and then putting that into a data point. But in terms of Open Championship history, Cameron Young has played this well. I think that's a little bit due to his length, and I don't know if that's going to be a significant thing this week. Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, John Rahm, Jordan. I don't think we're going to be playing Jordan, Scotty, and then Cameron Smith. For this, we are looking at the 2019 Open Championship instead of the 2020 because they didn't host that because of COVID. Now let's go ahead and get into what you all came here for, all the top picks. So Scotty Scheffler is going to rank out as the best player this week, but I will say this is the first time in a while where, given where he's priced, I don't know if we need to exactly get there because I do feel like he could potentially not pay off this price tag, and I am a little bit concerned about that. I mentioned I added in some stuff to the 9-to-5 player profile pop-up here. You guys will see that where you can see his odds and everything, potential ownership, specialists, and then their last 7 starts because that's the most important when we're looking at recent form. But in comparison to all the other top players, Scotty Scheffler is the one that struggles the most, that takes a hit from this being a link style course. That's the only exception I can find with him as a play. Other than that, he is going to be a top play. You do have a little bit of the dad narrative as well coming in now. I don't really think that's a factor because he won his last event and he has won twice now since then, but maybe there's something partially there. But he's the top player in the world. We do want to begin our exposure to him. Outright wise, I don't know. 5-1 on BetMGM is somewhat appealing. Probably don't need to get there though. And so after that, we do have Xander coming in as the second best play this week. He has had some great results at the Open Championship. He is obviously on a huge make cut streak, 51 in a row now. 14-1 odds for him on BetMGM or 16-1 odds on Bovada. That seems like something we should be trying to hammer home. Key stat wise is going to be popping up extremely well. Good drive percentage could be a little bit better. That is actually really what hurt him in the last major as well. If he had been having a better week driving the ball, I think he probably wins, honestly, because the rest of his game was there. And that was still a 13th place finish. You look at last week, he struggled in round 1, guys, and still had a 15th place finish. And so it's weird. I think just because of, I don't really get it. Like, his name value just isn't as high as Rory's or Bryson. And because of that, we continue to get Xander at these extreme discounts. And he continues to produce good results. And so he does seem to be someone that I want to start my week off with first click wise, and someone I think we need to be clicking on right away as well. So I feel comfortable getting to him. It does feel like we're locking in at least a top 15 place finish. Now, a lot of you might say, I want to go with Rory. Rory looked good last week after that kind of disappointing US Open. He took some time off to mentally recharge to be ready to go for this week. And I wouldn't argue with you at all. Okay, Rory is a great play. I would consider him the third best play like the 9-5 model does, but I think I'm going to be betting him at 8-1. I think those are good odds for him, honestly. To come that close at the US Open and to kind of get a little bit unlucky in the sense that like Bryson really had a terrible drive off the tee. Bryson could have easily made bogey or double bogey on that hole. And I just think he's going to mentally be prepared. And so I do think kind of starting this week off with Rory or Xander is going to be the correct move to go with. And if we look at the past 3 results for Rory here, a 6th and a 3rd place finish, really good stuff there from him at the Open Championship. Obviously, this is an event that he really wants to win. Look at total driving first in the field. He has some that can club down when necessary as well. There is a par 4 that he probably try to green as well. Maybe that sets up an opportunity for an eagle for him. But form-wise, guys, 4th, 2nd, 15th, 4th, 12th, 1st. So obviously been playing extremely great golf. I really don't feel like I need to talk on those 3 too much. Probably wasted a lot of you guys' time, honestly, doing that because it is pretty simple. If you guys can afford to fit them into your builds, you should do so. Now, with Bryson and Jon Rahm, certainly interesting. Bryson, I don't think I'm going to be playing this week or betting on for the Open Championship. I mentioned a bunch. I really wanted to bet him for the US Open. One and done wise for season long. I used him there. I was saving him for there. And so that's going to be the route I go with again. I'm really wondering for one and done purposes whether I want to go with Jon Rahm or Tyrrell Hatton, who is ranking out as the 5th best pick in the 9-5 mile. I'll probably go with more of Hatton, who has played well at this event. He's like the one player that is playing well on Live as well. I feel pretty comfortable about Hatton and his price tag as well, but it really just comes down to roster construction. I feel comfortable going Hatton and Fleetwood instead of paying up for Xander, going more with a fair and balanced approach, but it really just comes down to probably making a lot of builds and kind of mixing and matching them this week. But Tommy Fleetwood is coming in as the 4th best pick in the 9-5 model, which did shock me a little bit, but he has made 11 straight cuts. Stat-wise, maybe a little bit concerning. Ball striking 64th in the field, but he is 7th in total driving, 5th in good drive percentage, and 61st in birdie to bogey ratio. He was someone that was looking like a great outright bet last week after round 1, and then fell off 34th place finish. I do feel like he's a safe made cut. Do we want to bet him outright? Maybe. I mean, he might have been looking ahead a little bit. We can get him at 25-1 on most sites. I do feel like he's a very safe play. That is what the model is telling us. Remember, the 9-5 model is really focusing on both safety and upside, and Tommy Fleetwood is someone that should give us that. At the same time, we got Aubert as the 5th best play, tied with Tyrrell Hatton there, and he is someone I do think I want to be going on my way to roster. He has felt his season and career thus far has felt a lot like Colin Morikawa's, really. And it wouldn't be surprising for Aubert to get a major win on his first start at the Open Championship. Key stat-wise, it's there for him. 8th best in the field, stat fit-wise. He ranks 27th in ball striking, 3rd in total driving, 24th in good drive percentage, and 11th in birdie to bogey ratio. Form-wise has been solid. Again, ranking out 8th in the field. Specialist-wise, 5th in the field. This is a course that really should fit his game. And so he is someone I'm toying around with outright wise. But again, I probably will. DFS wise, I do feel like his price is a little bit too high though, because again, we're probably paying up for either Xander or Rory. That just feels like the correct decision. And then we might as well just go down to Hatton, Fleetwood, or Collin Morikawa, who's $200 cheaper as well. Collin Morikawa, again, is in the third best form in the field. Just been playing extremely well. 12 straight make cuts for him. And you can see why he's in the third best form in the field. He has went 4th, 13th, 14th, 2nd, 4th, 4th, 16th, and then you go further than 7 starts, 23rd and 9th. You look at those events, they are somewhat tougher scoring events as well, which I think just echoes that Collin Morikawa should be in for another good week. And he is someone I do think I want to bet outright wise. 16-1. He is someone that, if you want to call him more of a big game hunter, I guess, if you will, where he really gets up for the bigger events, you could. Has struggled in the past 2 Open Championships, but prior to that did have a victory. And so he is someone that, again, I think if I'm not starting my builds out with Xander, I probably will be going with Collin Morikawa. I don't really care about event history too much because, again, it's not a direct course history rank. It's just another data point that we use. So, like, he ranks out 39th in event history. I don't really care about that too much. It's just a side note. And the fact that he's a former winner, good. Now, Hovland, I'm just not going to mess around with. Could he have a good week? He could. I think Patrick Cantlay, he probably has found his swing a little bit with a 5th and 3rd place finish in his last 2 events. I don't know if I really want to mess around with that. Let's go ahead and drop down into kind of the next best options. So we drop down into the mid-tier plays. We are going to have Cam Smith, who, hasn't exactly played as well as I would have thought he would be playing, but he is someone that has really played well at the Open Championship in the past. You do expect him to be able to make the cut here, and that's really all we're searching for DFS wise. And if we can get a made cut with a likely top 20 finish out of Cameron Smith, maybe a top 30 finish out of him, I'm happy with that. And he is someone that, again, kind of looking at the live results, how much do we take away from it? He's kind of been all over the place, and that does worry me a little bit, but last 2 results, 6th and 9th, like how much do we take into account for that? Again, we don't know just yet. I mean, we do. It's about the average finish on live should be taken down. Like if he finished 6th, it should be like a 12th place finish on the PGA Tour. Again, I just don't think there's enough data really going into that just yet to say that definitively. After that, though, Tony Finau is really popping up as well. Those 2 are tied for 8th in the 9 to 5 mile. Tony Finau has been playing extremely well. 9 straight make cuts for him. Has played the Open Championship pretty well in the past as well. I'd be happy to get him into a lot of my builds. The question is, if we are going with Xander or Rory or even Collin, do we need to be playing these 2 where they might be priced up a little bit more than we need to go out of our range to play? You have Shane Lowry there, a former winner of this event. He has been someone that has made 14 straight cuts. Finally had a top 10 finish recently. Don't mind him, but I'm kind of okay kind of skipping over a lot of this range and going down a little bit lower. You have Brian Harman, last year's winner, and someone that has played this event really well. He does do well on these tracks where your ball can run out a little bit. He just takes advantage of that. And obviously, link style courses, that is what we are getting this week. And so event history-wise, 1st, 6th, 19th missed cut, like he has played this event really well, and I think that's just kind of echoes his style of game. Top 20 in the 9 to 5 specialist rank, top 20 in recent form. He's been playing better recently. I do expect us to get a made cut out of him. And at this cheap of a price tag, I'd be happy to go with that. Cameron Young, I don't know if I want to roll with. Really, where I think we start getting a lot of our value is in Aaron Rai. And I am kind of toying around with him as an outright bet at 66-1 or 80-1 on Bovada if you guys are someone that has access to that. He is just playing too well to, one, have to finish top 5 to qualify. That was crazy, right? He's like a top 20 player in the world right now, and he wasn't qualified for the Open Championship. Like, are you kidding me? Flawed there. And why is he a top 20 player in the world right now? Well, look at it, guys. 4th, 7th, 2nd, 19th, 14th, 32nd, 39th, 4th. And a lot of those, I mean, sure, Scottish Open, maybe not as good of a field as a major, but in the past majors, 19th, 39th, so still making the cuts there. Finished 7th at the John Deere Classic, 2nd at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So he has been playing some good golf, and it's been sustained form. 9 straight made cuts. Key stat-wise, his game sets up well. 22nd in the field in ball striking. 21st in the field in total driving. Best player in the field, good drive percentage. So he's not getting himself into that much trouble, which is why he ranks out 32nd in the field in birdie to bogey ratio. He should be a strong, safe play at this cheap price tag. And so I'm happy to put him into my builds. And this is where you can make a very solid, fair and balanced build if you choose to do so. Now, I don't really get the pricing of Corey Connors. Maybe it's because of this weird trend that's been going on with him where since the PGA Championship, or really, let's go back even further, since the RBC Heritage, he's had like a top 30-ish finish, then a top 10 finish-ish. But let's go with the PGA Championship because it works better for this narrative that I'm about to drive. 26th, 6th, 20th, 9th, 27th, 10th. Like, it's a weird trend that's going on with him. So if that trend continues, we're going to see a top 30 place finish out of him, which we would take at this price tag. And again, I want to restate this one more time. The 9-to-5 model is looking at both safety and upside. That is why a player like Corey Connors continues to pop up as a great play, and that's why he continues to reward us. He is going to be, him and Xander, think based off the amount of events, Corey Connors is going to be my most rostered player this year. And in a weird way, he kind of feels like Brian Harman outright wise this week, like Brian Harman was last year, where playing good enough, someone whose game is when they are on, they can win. And honestly, just number wise, we should not be getting Corey Connors at 75-1 with how great he has been playing. 5th best in the field in recent form. Stat fit wise, pretty strong. I mean, the one concern would be ball striking 31st in the field. Everywhere else, top 20 in the field. He had been someone that had somewhat struggled in majors in the past. This had been the one where he was making cuts, though. Again, looking over the last 4 years, no missed cuts at the Open Championship. 6th best specialist, 15th best stat fit, 12th ranked play in the 9-to-5 model. And actually, guys, before this was adjusted for Vegas made cut percent and Vegas outright odds, him and Aaron Rye were both top 10. That's how good of a play they rank on paper. And so I want to play him. If anyone's down the 9-to-5 model, let's just call it out again. Harry Hall, number 1 in the 9-to-5 model last week. That's now the 9th time where the 9-to-5 ranked player in the the number 1 ranked play in the 9-to-5 model has won this year. So it's been doing pretty well. Just fair warning. And again, though, this kind of tells us exactly the week we have. That being said, we can go a little bit cheaper. There are better, softer price plays. So let's go with more of the long shot plays, value plays. We'll say Tagala is certainly interesting. He is someone that does have upside. We know when his game is on, he is on, and he can give us a top 10. Same thing with Sam Burns. Those two do provide some top 10 upside. I don't mind those two as a play. Akshay is someone whose game should fit this event, coming in with some good form. Davis Thompson continues to play well. He's someone I do think we're going to get a made cut out of at a cheap price tag. But I do want to call it Adam Scott. There's been a weird trend this year, which did start out as a bit to really highlight how well I had done betting the majors, being on Scotty, Xander, and Bryson now. So we're going for a 4-for-4 majors outright wise. See if we do it. Fingers are crossed. Really hasn't been that hard, though. I mean, you're betting on number 1 ranked play in the model, 2nd ranked play in the model in Xander, and the 5th ranked play in the 9-to-5 model in Bryson, where we were getting him at like 22-1. I mean, it was pretty simple. Like, that's nothing too crazy. But a weird trend has been that every major winner thus far this year has finished 2nd in their last PGA Tour event, which I think is kind of crazy. And Adam Scott is actually a viable option to continue that trend because he finished 2nd at the Scottish Open last week. And if you look at his profile, he is someone that does pop up decently. Has 3 straight decent results at the Open Championship. Form-wise, had been a little bit spotty. He had been someone that was popping up a decent amount, like stat-wise, and just hadn't been coming through. He is someone that we could see like just randomly pop up for a win this week. That I could see that happening, where kind of a veteran that finds his form. Maybe there is a little bit of a weather narrative. I could see that happening. For DFS purposes, though, the point stands that we should be getting a make cut out of a guy that's 6.7. Over his past 20 events, he has finished top 65 or better 90% of the time. So really love that there from him. He's made the cut in his past 5 starts on the PGA Tour as well. Again, with a really good result last week. Maybe he did find something. Now, his one miscut was at the PGA Championship. Unfortunate. That was a major. That was more of a better field event. But at this price tag, it does feel like we're basically being forced into rostering him because he should give us a make cut, and maybe he did find something in his form. Maybe it's someone we can trust to get maybe a top 25 place finish. Now, the player that everyone is going to be on is Sungjae Im, okay? Both probably outright-wise, DFS-wise, everyone's going to be on him. And the reason being is because of his upside that he's had. Now, I do want to point out that in most of those events where he has had, I shouldn't say most of them, in the events where he has struggled, let's phrase it this way, they have been harder scoring events. Valspar, Masters, PGA, the US Open. Those have been the events where he struggled. So he is getting knocked in the 9-to-5 model because of those missed cuts that he's had. He's had 2 over his past 7 starts, especially in a field like this, where there's a lot of players that are coming in with better, safer form, making cuts and having good upside finishes. He's never going to rank out as well as those plays. That being said, the form is somewhat there as well in terms of upside. Like GPP-wise, makes for a phenomenal GPP play. I wouldn't say he's a cash play. I'm kind of curious to see if he is going to be a high ownership play in cash. He is someone, though, that if his ownership does get too high, I'd be fine with people fading him, I think, as it sits right now. We'll have to take a peek at the ownership leverage tab on the 9-to-5 website. It's actually time for a good plug. If you guys are curious about that and you guys want to sign up for the 9-to-5 tools, get access to it for $10 a month. Actually, using the promo code SUMMER, you'll get it for $5 a month. That's going to be available until August 1st. So honestly, a perfect time to take advantage of that promo. You get access to the ownership leverage tool, which obviously last week was pretty successful. But for SunJam, yes, the upside's there. I don't mind him as a long shot bet, 65 to 1, 70 to 1. Yeah, that's not terrible. I get it. I do want to call out, though, that he struggled at the Open Championship in the past. However, his last made cut at a major was the Open Championship last year, where he finished 20th. SunJam is someone that right now, for whatever reason, when he is on, he is on. When he's not on, he's not on. It's just weird. Like I said, though, the only major that he's made the cut in over his past 7 starts now was the Open Championship of last year. He's missed kind of his last 3 starts this year at majors. So it's not like a lock and load option, especially compared to some safer plays. Does he have more upside than a lot of them? Sure. Yes. Then just some other values like Siwoo Kim. I wouldn't be surprised to have a good week. Benny Ann, he's fallen off. Russell Henley, I mean, he's someone like we're always kind of looking at GPP wise. JT Poston, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a cut. Tom Hoagie, GPP play. Harris English been playing better. He could make the cut. Perez at as cheap of a price tag. Like we could begin to make cut of him. I don't mind that. Chris Kirk, again, we're looking at players where we could get cheap make cuts. I don't mind them. Probably don't need to go there, though. All right, so first look build. I'm actually going to give you guys kind of 2 different ways you could go about doing it. So right now, like this, we obviously have a fair and balanced kind of approach going. Like if you want to include SunJam in there, you could. If you want to go cheaper, you could. If you want to go expensive, you could. That's the thing this week. You're going to be able to make whichever lineup, path, or construction you want work. Let's say we go with Morikawa. We have 7-6 left over. Harm and I'd be happy to. That's going to probably be my lineup process this week. At the same time, I do think it's pretty easy to do more of a fair and balanced approach. Let's try it. Fleetwood, Hatton, Morikawa even. So 3 9K plays, and you guys can probably figure out what I'm going to do. Scott, Connors, and this is what's super annoying. Like this would, we do, oh my goodness. I thought it was 100 off. This is a phenomenal build on paper. We're getting a bunch of cut makers. A lot of safety here, obviously weather depending. This is a great build. So I'm actually very curious as to what the 9-5 lineup builder is going to tell us maybe is a better lineup. So let's go ahead and take a peek at that. And for now, guys, really don't care about the ownerships. Like it's Monday. We're really rough estimate there with those. Okay. To start the lineup builder, we do need to put in 2 data points. So I'm kind of rounding up right now. I don't want to change too much. But just kind of giving it 2 data points to go off of. And then we're just going to run it raw. Okay, so generate 20 builds, see what it tells us is the top lineup. And so the top lineup, not too far off, guys. Tommy Fleetwood, Smith, Tony Finau, Shane Lowry, Brian Harman, Corey Connors. That actually looks like a great lineup. And so again, this is a week in which that's going to happen a bunch, right? We're going to get a lot of easy builds, a lot of great builds on paper. And so let's just kind of spread it out. We're going to do 3 unique players. Let's do 25% max exposure. What's surprising here is that it didn't get any of those top end players. I think by doing this, it will allow those players in there. So yes, we're getting now 25% of Colin Morikawa, Xander, Aubert. Feel pretty good about that. Rory, 20%. The only player that's not getting in there is Scotty, which I kind of get this week. Again, he really needs to finish like top 5 to pay off that price tag. And if there's ever a course fit that maybe doesn't fit his game, it'd be this one. At the same time, we still want exposure to him. I'm probably going to be even weight on the field with Scotty this week. But let's see, the top build with Colin Morikawa is Fleetwood, Finau, Young, Rye, Connor. So not that much of a difference there. So there is some predictability there. So obviously a little bit longer of a video today, going through all the tools and everything that we need to be successful for the Open Championship. If you guys want access to this, head over to 9to5sports.com, get access to all the tools that you need to succeed and more by visiting 9to5sports.com. Again, we do have this promo code going on right now. Use the promo code SUMMER. You get 50% off your first 9to5 membership, and that is available until August 1st, and it's the first 200 people that sign up. But that is going to be all for this week. For this video, we'll be coming out with the outright video as well as the player pool for the Open Championship. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's keep it the hot streak. Good luck, and as always, let's keep cashing.